There we go. Good evening, everybody. I'm calling the Board of Finance public hearing order. We are here to have a presentation from our Board of Ed chair and our first selectman to present their budgets. We were looking for your input, as well as comments. We are looking to all views, and we'll see how if there's questions, we'll do our best to answer them. And it'll be one at a time talking, so we'll do our best there. And we have no alternates to see this evening. We have a quorum because Amy Wynn is on Zoom with us. So I will turn it over to Pat. Okay.
A little slower than I have, as you noticed. So fine. Oh, I'm going to use it all the time. As for that, right? Well, I assume everybody has a copy of our phone spending for the fiscal year 26-27. And we also have I think everybody got them. I hope there. The Board of Finance already asked us to look at and reduce our budget, so we gave you that list. As well. We have traditionally we have set the Board of Education budget up in such a way that it is easy to read. And we give you quite a little bit about education, how it is funded, what our responsibilities are, and all those sorts of good things. The bottom line is for the next fiscal year, our total increase for education total. Okay, if we go to pay. You go to pay very bad. If you go to the last page 12, okay, you can see that our total increase, you can see what our total increase as of April 6th, total gross budget is for the original for education, okay, is the $2,490,760. And we have tried very hard at many meetings we first started this process in December, at the end of December and then into January. And we worked on it pretty much until the beginning of the first of all, there's some introductory information on pages 1 and 2. Which I'm not going to read to you because I think you should completely read it yourself. But we have a work-through plan, motion, the Board of Finance, which is what we did earlier this week. So there's 1 or 2 pages that explains all of that. And then if you move on, the next part is an executive summary of the budget that we are proposing. Most spending plan for 2024-2025 is $3,780,573, a 0.81% increase from the budget for 2023. It's very important that folks understand how the increase in the budget is determined. It's exactly that. What was your budget last year? What's your budget this year? Subtract the difference, that's the percentage of it. A very simple concept. And here in the executive summary, we give a brief explanation, if you will, the budget itself. We would like to share with you the plan having two part drivers. Let's read that so everybody has an understanding. The portion of the region one spending grant allocated to the job and goes through, which our Board of Education cannot control, goes to a referendum vote for citizens in the 6-town region it serves. Our portion for the coming school year represents a 1.17% increase over last year due to a larger number of the co-op students who will be attending the County Valley Regional High School. The number fluctuates significantly year to year, depending on the number of students from and of those matriculating into the high school. The Leach Calixton, which is the local elementary school, is determined by the Canaan Board of Education. We work with the principal and the staff along with the superintendent. We also work with the business manager as well, who is very good in guiding us to about the financial increases, decreases, and things of that sort. This summary addresses the most significant changes in this part of it. Last year, Stacy Pilo was the superintendent, and Lisa Carter had retired. So for fiscal year, this coming fiscal year, 2026-2027, Andrew Deacon is our principal, and our superintendent is Melody Gracia. Both of those people spend a great deal of time looking over everything that Kellogg needs to be a good educational institution and that give our kids a good education. You should know, I'm just going to say this is my own observation. We have excellent staff. And we have excellent people who work for us in the custodial end of it, and the office, who give a lot more time than what they are paid for to make everything work very, very smoothly over there. Andrew Deacon, the new principal, came to us in December, I believe, right, Lauren? Came to us in December. Stacy Kalo left for a position. I think she was in one place of that way. So so this is the executive summary does address most of the major changes. This plan has two parts. You can see Region 1 and ZH Kellogg. And then page 1 and page 2, it goes through each series, indicates what is in the series and what is happening in that, what is happening in that series historically, and what we may see for next year. And again, at the conclusion of the executive summary, we want you to know that people at Kellogg School work very, very hard. And it's not just the people that are in the building. It's the people are superintendent, assistant superintendent, the whole gamut, all those people that are in people services. So we are actually, the region is most fortunate, and they have excellent relationships with our principal and with our staff, with our custodial staff, and with Lori. So that, I think, is where we will start. The first series is a Honda series, and that's salary, and that's salaries. That is a negotiated part of our budget. We have negotiation teams to negotiate the pay for everyone listed under the 100 series salaries for the certified staff and the 100 series for salary classified staff. And that is done through state mandate. We try to keep the state out of it if we can. We are very aware that we like to come to an agreement that is a fair agreement and one that we feel would reflect the time. So the 100 series page 2, or page 12. That has all that information, and on the far right-hand side, you can see the percentage of increase and decrease in some of these items. I don't think everything here is what we've had for the last few years in a way of our folks that are employed there. Is there any question there? Again, it's all guided by Richard. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And for clarity's sake, I'd like to clarify the difference between the Region 1 obligation, which is a settled matter, having been decided by referendum, and is obligated by the full faith and credit of the town, and is not up for a decision on our part of our town meeting.
Right.
So that is, as I say, a matter that's off the table and settled.
That's correct.
What exactly is the increase on the matter that is before us to decide?
Is it each column from
Yes.
Yes. And if you go to page 12 on this sheet, you can see down towards the bottom, it gives you the total regional budget, which is our share of the cost.
That's not what I'm looking at.
The percentage, and then you can see the percentage of the region that lot.
What I'm trying to point out is the regional debt, which it is now,
Yep.
is off the table for decision. We're not making a decision about it either from the part of the board or in our town meeting,
That's right.
because it is already obligated by the full faith and
That's right.
credit
This
of the
is
town.
this is
So I'm just looking for our own responsibility that is on the table, which is Kellogg versus last year versus the coming fiscal year.
right, and that is there under that at the bottom of the handout. I'm serious.
Thank you, Jerry.
Interested in just that one. But being a regional district, I will point out, we do have a financial obligation to the regional district as well. All right, so we have salaries, which is series 100, and then if you look above it, you have all the explanations on every series right above. If you go to the next page to the 200 series, again, these are things that are pretty much in place and negotiated. And that is benefits, and that includes things like dental insurance for both the non-certified and certified staff, health insurance for both, Social Security for those that it's applicable to, medical certifications, not medical certified, not certified. And then we have several people that we cover for pension. Okay, and that would be on lines 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. Those are pensions that we provide to our employees. We do not provide pensions for the teachers because they're under the Connecticut State Teacher Retirement System. And they have, they have a certain way that they set everything up. I heard there's 7 teachers here in the room. It depends on it depends actually on what you earn each year. It's very similar, a little bit different, but very similar to the state employee. We also provide via contract that we reimburse some graduate credits. The teacher has to have, I believe it's a little bit over 30 credits within a certain amount of time in order for you to be a certified teacher, with the state of Connecticut. And then obviously we have to provide for unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, and life. Okay, the next page is the 300 series, and that is purchase services. And again, it's the 300 400 actually this next page. You have the explanation at the top, and then on the 300 series, purchase service are things like technology support, telecommunication and internet, school sports and activities, professional services, environmental testing, in-service learning, which is another guideline from the state that we have to abide by. Staff development, assembly programs, outdoor education, student activities, and the yearbook. The one thing that I would like to mention, and this goes back quite some time frame. I don't even know if Louis' kids were in on the beginning of this, but the outdoor education program, we were one of the first schools in the state, I think, that offered this program. Many of you, if you've lived here in Falls Village long enough or are familiar with our history, probably have heard the name Berkey Kelsey. Well, he was a tree guy. He had his tree business, and he volunteered his time. And he actually put together our outdoor education program. And if you look under outdoor education, under line 34, it gives you a little bit of an explanation. This is for sixth and seventh graders. They go to nature's classroom on alternating years and grades K to 8 outdoor education programs. My kids, well, my oldest boy, who's in his now, he went to Cape Cod. It was one of the first times they went to Cape Cod. I'm sure Michelle can tell stories about where she went, and others who graduated from Kellogg School could probably do the same. It's a wonderful program. These Berkey and the group that started this did this for this amount of money. Zero. And it has provided a program for our students that is really second to none. And they've gone all over. They go to Engine's classroom, they've gone everywhere. I couldn't probably tell you every place they've gone. It is a variety of experiences, and it's a wonderful program. The Florida series, which is also on the same page, that talks about what we have to pay for water, we have to copy your lease, we pay for lawn care, we have some equipment maintenance, and that's explained a little bit. And on line 46, such things as nursing equipment, young shelters, usually the student, piano turnings, fire extinguishers, those sorts of things. Septic tank units, and we do have 2 separate things, right? Or 2 septic tanks? There's one in the front of the building and one up on the hill behind. So obviously those have to be maintained on a good schedule. We have facility maintenance, and facility maintenance is really upkeep and repairs, and we hit the major parts for heating, clean, safety system, and regular building maintenance. So that's what that goes to. And then we have some building improvements, and there may be some long-term and other planned maintenance projects such as painting, replacing carpeting, replacing flooring, those sorts of things. We are still very careful at our maintenance. We have very old tile down, so we are very careful about that part of it. I think, but I'm not 100% sure. I think we have most of the asbestos out of the school. There may still be some small areas where the tile is on the floor has some small amount of asbestos in it, but it's as long as the tile is solid, not open to location. All right. Let's see here. Next is the 500 series, and that's purchase services. That one's a fairly pricey series that we go through because that provides our daily transportation. That's our buses, field trip, property insurance, student insurance. A new line that's in there in the last few years, in the last 10 years, is the cyber insurance. We didn't have those when my kids went to school, no such thing, but we do protect ourselves with that. Then we have telephone, postage, printing and advertising. Summer school, we do provide a summer school for kids. The summer school that is provided, if you look at your line 59 above, is regional staffing. This is a summer program region-wide. It's regional staffing, instructional supplies, And it is based on the participation. And we have been very fortunate to get very gifted teachers who teach during the school year, but spend some of their time during the summer, doing the summer school program. And then you have travel for staff and the principal and technology hardware. And we are very careful. I will say this now, I'll probably say it again. We are very careful in how we put our budgets together. We put our budget together for what we believe the needs are going to be for that next school year. But we are looking, the principal, the Board of Education is looking all the time, weekly, in fact, to see if there are ways that we can save money. And we have Gloria's on the lookout, the school nurse is on the lookout for things that would be in her department. The teachers are on the lookout. And if I do say so myself, I think that the staff and the board do a pretty darn good job of keeping it as low as we possibly can. The next series is the 600 series, and that's supplies. And that goes, that's a wide range in the series. We have office supplies, instructional supplies. We have supplies for our art program, our music program, our athletic program, science. There is mandated testing. We have to have supplies for that. As I mentioned before, the nurse has to have supplies. There's a whole lot with the advent of technology. There's lots and lots of things for technology. We do have accounting. We do have accounting, service supplies, things like envelopes, checks, folders, and files, QuickBooks software, things like that. And also in this series, 600 series, we have our electricity, we have propane gas, we have oil, we have diesel, and then we have what the teachers use to help teach the students. And they can be textbooks now these days are often digital, but you have to have a license, so there is a cost to that. We also have hard copies of our textbooks. We have library books. There are library supplies. We have to keep our books in good condition. In the library, they have to have inventory labels, barcodes, all sorts of things that need to be on those books so that we can keep track of them, know what we have, and know when certain items need to be repaired. The kids are really good about keeping those books in good shape. We are very fortunate that our kids are very thoughtful. And then we have a small for professional publications, which are resources for our professional learning and online media subscriptions. Okay. Somebody say something. The 700 series. Oh, you said.
I was just wondering why a big job or
What's that again?
why a big job?
Because we still have library and textbooks that are used daily in the school. It's not all virtual.
I'm questioning the amount, it's like, why so few?
Well, that's because, if I do say so myself, Mickey Glass and the teachers have kind of knocked it into the kids that they have to cover them, they have to take care of them. I believe, maybe you can back me up on this story. I believe that if something gets lost or destroyed, there's sometimes maybe that they have to replace this, depending on what the situation they have.
I do want to address the textbooks line 86. There's a grant that will pay, a state grant that will pay for some of our new like
I
benchmark
say so.
textbooks. For this
If you
year,
look
it's
at
not
line-
guaranteed for next year, but for this year, that's why there's a drop. Textbook.
And if you look at line 82, that's explained. Harvard original textbooks for ELA and American Spanish includes the new regional science of reading, which they call SOR. Okay, materials for K-3 that will be supplemented with green. Our new principal, well, actually, any principal we have has been very good about ferreting out grades. Laura grades to us too, as do the teachers. So any place that we can get money, which applies to our budget, and reduces our budget in the end. We do it. The one thing I want to point out, when we put the budget together, we don't always know exactly what is going to be available for us in the grants and other programs, which may help us defer the cost. Sometimes they come up in the middle of the year, but this line 82 says, Dan, that explains what we're doing there. Is there any other questions from that section?
I was questioning the amounts. I just was wondering why you cut like it was.
And Lori did answer it.
And that was like state of Connecticut grants. Which you don't always know what you're gonna have, but we know at this point that grant will cover the cost of the programs. We don't know what's gonna happen in 2020. 27, it's gonna come. So that's what it is.
So that's why the decrease.
And I
Thank you, Lori.
also think too, one of the things that both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education do is we try to get as close as we can to a number that is going to fit what we need. If we have money left over at the end of the year, if there are unexpended funds, it is the great majority of unexpended funds goes back to the town. I will point out at this time that last year, the state of Connecticut allowed the Board of Education to have its own fund. It is not controlled by the town, it is controlled by the Board of Education. And we have put some unexpended funds in there for more major types of projects that we know are coming up. For instance, for the last number of years, we've been working on a roof over there. Having a primarily flat roof isn't always the best kind of roof to have. But we are gradually working on each section of roof. Bill Beebe still is a great resource for him, for us, along with Chad Wilson, who is our janitor, and Sam Herrick is wonderful about these sorts of things. And they work as a triumvirate, if you will, to figure out which sections of roof we need attention within the next fiscal year. And that way we are able to better plan, and we do it out for more than 1 year. That way we're better able to plan how much it may cost us. A roof project, if we try to do it all at once, we wouldn't have nearly enough money. It would be probably over $200,000. Maybe more.
I just wanted to repeat your reference to the care of the books also diminishing the cost.
It's correct. Nikki Glass is our librarian, and she does a fantastic job. And she's in there. She knows. She's very good with the kids, and we don't have very many books that are ruined, if you will, destroyed from year to year. Sometimes we have to replace the series because we're doing something different and the information in that book is no longer valid. But in terms of library books and things like that, that are not a textbook, we do try to have a good set of library books. And also the other thing we should probably mention is that we meaning Kellogg School, has a very close relationship with the DM Library. We work hand in hand with the DM Library. I believe that sometimes things that we may not be able to get, but are going to be a big one that's going to be taken out of the library line. We can work together so that we can get between the two of us, between the two libraries, that we have everything we need. Um, okay. Any other questions on 600 series? Okay, now the rest of this, 700 series, the 800 series, and the 900 series. Series 700 is labeled profit, and those are non-instructional equipment and instructional equipment. And we explain that it's not used for instruction. It would be things like desks, chairs, stools, bookcases, shelves. For instance, if we had, a class of, say, 15 or 18 kindergarten kids, we probably don't have enough furniture for 18 kids, so we might have to order some furniture that year. But again, we try to stay pretty close to what we budget. 700 series, that's his problem. The 800 series are dues and fees. Edadance is an educational institution that helps us, and if you look, it's a school membership as for consultant work with educators, and then we have dues and fees, which are such things as the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. And that one includes a new policy service, which is great because your policies should be looked at least every 3 years and often rewritten. Right now, we're going through a policy series right now at the high school, so we keep up on that as well. The 900 series is capital expenses, capital technology transfer, okay, and capital building transfer. So one for technology, one for the building, they're separate ones. Obviously, for the building, it's going to tend to be more expensive. For those of you who are not aware, I believe the first year that the school was in session, and maybe Bill, is Bill here? Bill, maybe?
Right now, he's back there.
Yeah, Bill, no, what start about 1949, 1950? 51. The building, I think, though, it was approved in the building of the school was approved in the late 40s. And then over the next couple of years, it was built. So the school is a fairly old building. Okay. And the best way to keep our building so that we don't have to replace it is to take care of it. So we put money away each year in anticipation of perhaps having to use it for something, either technology or all right, so then that is the end of the Kellogg. And for this year, the proposed budget, which I think was in the beginning, $2,303,591. And I believe that's $85,417 for asking more. And given my understanding is from doing a little bit of research, the average increase in education budgets around the state is about 4.5%. Maybe even a higher bit more. The last three lines are outside for pupil services, which is most people call it special ed. Administrative services, superintendent's office, and high school tuition. That's been determined, that's been voted on, and as Louis pointed out earlier, those numbers are already baked in because they've been approved. And that's a region-wide.
Right, yes, that
Okay,
vote,
just so
that
you
vote
know,
approved.
some
Yeah.
towns, to my great disappointment, Falls Village, not come out of the side of that. The difference in for and against was like, I think about 14 votes or something like that.
Right.
But we put all the votes together from all of the 6 towns, and that determines if the budget passes or not. So we did pass in every other town. Even in North Canaan, which a lot of times North Canaan, because they have so many students, it's kind of a hard sell. But they passed it. So That's where we, versus, with the cuts that we made, which is about a little over $42,000. Yep. That we were estimating that we were fine, so it's not 42. That brings, our surplus budget down to a 2.81% increase. Our finance, yeah.
I was thinking that gas as well with the bus driver, so bus maintenance, but when did that figure come up with, whether it's 6%? I don't think it's just the proposal, when gas go up and having gas.
It's an annual figure that we have to.
That's been negotiated prior to this year,
Yeah.
so, and it includes everything.
And it may be negotiated in 2 years, it may be negotiated in 3 years. The bus company doesn't have to like go beyond 2.
Yeah.
They can't really blame, you know.
Pat, I'd like to, there is some comments on
Yes, that's
Zoom,
online,
so
but-
Pat was going to read those.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Are you ready?
As ready as all of that.
The Board of Education was going to agree to a pre-K program with 2 to 3 students costing the town over $30,000. Is that financially mature for us? We've already. Can you tell us who's asking the question? Yeah, can you identify the? No, it's just an iPhone.
Ask them to identify themselves.
Yeah, can you tell us who you are?
Who I am?
No.
The commenter.
Because we typically don't take questions unless the people identify themselves. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
So that's the question here then.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
but the answer is, it's cut from this current budget.
Yes, we did. We were planning on a program, but it did not work out. That's the program they were talking about, I believe. Yes, sir.
So, Peter Jensen, Beebe Hill Road, Pat and the board, I think you've done a great job in keeping this budget pretty lean with an increase, you say, of 2.47, so let's actually respectfully disagree. The increase is actually 3.3 when you compare it to the actual that was estimated.
That's not how you do that.
Yeah, but that is how we really have to do it.
No, that actually is.
That is, the most appropriate type of clear accounting practice.
Can I answer that?
Budget to budget.
The question I have here is in your executive summary.
Yes,
It says with a current Connecticut Next Generation Accountability Index of 78.7%. Can you expand a little bit on that? That's kind of like is that a grade?
where are you?
On how the school is doing, or what's that actually mean?
What page?
In the executive summary,
Yes, I see that.
commitment to equity and the second paragraph.
Okay,
It says with a current Connecticut Next Generation Accountability Index of 78.7%. What's that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Do we have to do something about that, or is that outstanding? I mean, what does that mean? And then I have another question.
no, I don't even, I can't even find it where you're talking. It's on page 2.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm looking at, page 276. That comes from the state, let me put it that way.
So we don't know what it means.
Well, the superintendent and the administrative people know what it means, and we will deal with it.
Is it good or is it bad?
We're looking at it. Probably.
President, board member, I was there for that.
Yeah.
It is a good score.
Okay.
And we are on an upswing, year on year with those scores. It has to all do with how we rank vis-a-vis other schools in the state. And we're in the tier just below the highest tier, which also interestingly is correlated with the property tax values of the area. So as you would expect, areas of the state that have the wealthiest areas of the state tend to perform the very, very best, and unfortunately, the opposite is true. We are on an incline as far as that goes.
So we're not like.
We're spending, the money that we're spending is wisely spent.
We do quite.
That's what I want to.
Do you have any other questions?
Yes, so this goes back not to this budget,
Well, that's the budget we're dealing with here.
right, but it really, well, it really goes to last year's budget and the budget survey. Okay, so the town has been funding a capital building account.
That's correct.
And even this year, we'll also be funding a capital building account for the school.
That's correct. We have a
Okay.
capital building account that is in the hands of the town of Canaan, yes.
Right. You have any, is there any idea as to how much is in that account? We've been funding it for several years.
But we've also used some of it at some times. There's another account too that was established last year, which is kind of, I think is part of your question. State allowed the boards of education at the end of the fiscal year to retain, if you will, 2% of the unexpended funds. And it is to be used only for certain purposes. That account, as I think I mentioned earlier in my presentation, is controlled by the Board of Education. The account that I believe you're speaking about is in the hands of the town. And if we want to take money out of that account, I believe it has to come to it. You know, the Board of Ed has to come through the town, present what we want to use it for, and the town meeting has to approve taking money out of that account, even though that money is in there specifically for education.
Is there no one knows how much is in that account? Because we've been funding it for years.
You'd have to see Michelle on Monday.
Pardon me?
Go see Michelle on Monday. She'll give you the number.
We also have it, excuse me for a moment, it's also online.
Yeah.
Produce
Within the meeting.
Our
Board of
reports
Finance.
every month, so it can be found on the town
Yep.
website.
So then the question really arises, last year's estimated spend. 2,370,255, I guess. There's a mistake in the printing here. Against a budget of 2,390,265. That is a budget surplus of $20,040.
Right.
So what is gonna happen with that money?
That money has already been, 2% of that has been put in a special account that I just.
How much is that, 2%? 2% of
It's
20,000?
30, out of around $30,000 or so that was unexpended.
I think what Mr. Jensen calculated is, yes, between 20 and 30%.
Right.
2% of that.
2% of 20 or 30.
It was, I believe it was just shy of $30,000, if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm sorry, if I had gotten your questions a little bit sooner, I would have been able to have more specific answers for you. That was put away. That was put away in the new account, state established for boards of education. That will be put away, and the Board of Education will be discussing at meetings to come where that money might be used, because there are some things that need to be done in the school.
For 400, it's 20,000, the budget surplus says here, for 20,000. Then that's $400 put away,
So,
that's 2% of the budget, that's correct.
Mr. Johnson,
So what happens with the rest of 19,000 something?
When the actual unexpended amount is determined, and I don't know that you are reading this correct.
I think I can answer, give him clarity. Okay.
No, we, last year was the first year that we took the 2% out, that we were able to take the 2%.
If you can take 2% of the amount of the whole budget underspent and put in the account, it's not 2% of what was underspent.
Right.
It's
Right.
2%, you
Right.
can take up to 2% of
Which is
the
not-
whole budget,
Right.
not 2% of
If
what was
that
underspent.
2% of the
It
whole.
was-
It was 30,000, right, it
Yeah.
was, it's.
Yes.
what can we,
Little more clear.
But
Thank you.
Mr. Jensen, that 20,000 that you're referring to now, that is estimated to
Yes, I
be
see.
under expended. It could still get spent if something happens. So we should not even be addressing that 20,000 until the end of the year, because we don't know if it's gonna be there or not. That, they're just giving us estimated figures, and so that's why we have to go budget to budget and not, but expected, estimated budget to budget.
Well, it seems like there is an expectation of using it because you're already talking about using it for funding roof repair.
Well,
But
it could be.
in theory, that means that you can also expect to underspend on this budget that we're talking about, so the point is not there.
I'm not sure.
Respectfully.
Well,
I want to assure you, Mr. Jensen, that the Board of Finance is very aware of your concerns and other people and others in the town. And we do our very best to make sure that we do our due diligence for our kids and we do our due diligence for our taxpayers. And if you want my opinion, I think we do a pretty job. I've been hanging around the Board of Education for over 20 years. And the people that are on the board, not that all boards of ed I've served on haven't been great boards of ed, but the people that serve on our boards of ed, both the high school board, Region 1 board, and the local board, are most aware of both places, the taxpayer and our children.
okay, but yes, I already said you did a good job with the budget.
Right.
I'm just wondering what if.
Let's move on. Let me move on, Mr. Tennant.
I have a question which possibly relates to what you're inquiring about. All the years that I was on the Board of Selectmen and all the years I was on the Board of Finance, which is more than I care to add up, the Board of Ed returned its unexpended money to the general fund. So now with this 2%, as to what it might be, with the philosophy and I'm only asking the philosophy, not an obligation, with the philosophy of the Board of Ed be to retain how much of that 2% versus the amount that was unexpended? Would you return some of it back to the general fund or none of it, depending on how that 2%?
We did return some of it back to the general
Well,
fund.
that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and since we now have that flexibility, we want to use that flexibility. The money is there for education. It should be used for education. And we meaning the Board of Education, will determine how that will be used depending upon the statutory requirement of the state of Connecticut. Did you have a question?
Yeah, let me just get to the one, Maddie Johnson from Belden Road,
Yeah,
She is-
did
she's the
identify
one-
herself.
who is asking the questions online. So we'll just go back to those
Okay,
quickly.
so next question, please account for the secretary, when I was in school, was only 10-month position, but now 12 months. With computerized registration, is it necessary to spend an extra 20,000 salary?
I would. What we are required, what we need, the Board of Education is required to do by the state, we would not budget anything in that line unless it was necessary. I would say, and Lori is here, how many weeks do you work after school gets out? You only have a few weeks off. All the other weeks she is doing things that are required by the state. So I'm gonna let you answer that, Lori.
Somebody does at schools have to answer any questions that might arise all throughout the year by the state concerning attendance records or any of the programs that we come with. And also my position at the school, I'm also the tech coordinator. I'm not just a secretary, and I do all the ordering. And I do the state reporting and I do the Board of Ed. So there's more involved than just a job coming in and, dealing with paper.
Yes, and not only has the work increased with Lori and the teachers and the administrators, but honestly, the work has increased for the Board of Education too, in terms of what we become responsible for in terms of making certain decisions for you as representatives of the people of the town. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. This is the most complicated times for Board of Education budget, and I'm a little bit out of the town part of it, but not less than 10 years. It's a very big job for a lot of work and not a lot of pay. So is there another question that we
She
should?
has several questions.
Sure.
Okay, teachers have 2 preps per day and 30-minute lunch plus high line with substitutes, full-time librarian job. Does all staff have to be full-time?
All staff is not full-time. Okay, all staff is not full-time. The librarian is paid as a non-certified person, which means that they do not get these, they are not under the contract of a certified staff. If we had a certified librarian, we would be paying probably almost twice as much. So that, a lot of this goes back to the State Board of Education and to the different statutes. And really, I mean, I know people are interested in this, but I would encourage people, if they have an interest, please come and join us. Or at least come to our meetings so that you can see, and the Board of Finance meetings for that matter, and Board of Select, to see what your volunteers are expected to do.
Let me give, Greg, you had a question. I'll give you a chance.
Thank you.
Kind of keep.
Again, I'll echo thanks to this Board of Education and what's at this budget. Been following many years, and this is like a fellow work that's gone into this. Pat, I know this, we all know in this room that we have a revenue issue in this town. You were asked to cut $50,000. You made a very solid attempt to get there. Appreciated. My concern is in trying to get there, they're cutting out of the proposed early kindergarten, is what I call it. That's what I call it. The way of looking at your numbers, it looks to be first year about $30,000, second year call it $25,000 to run that program. I think with the 2% of the total budget that can be returned to you, I believe you have about $60,000 so far since that's been allowed by the state, give or take. I personally think that it's a great investment for the Board of Education at Kellogg to spend that, reinstitute that, and pay for it out of that. You're still meeting the request of the Board of Finance, but our most valuable asset in this town is not the building, it's not the room, it's not the town government, it's our children.
Yes.
Well,
One of the board members can correct me, but currently, we do not have anyone that is going to use that program.
There was only 2 students. There was only 2 families that showed interest in the program, and both of those students will actually qualify to go to kindergarten with the exception. So the kindergarten is only 5 students, so it only brings the class to 7. Seems totally reasonable. I don't think the program should be off the table going forward, but this might not be the right year for it.
knowing that, thank you, I was just going by the 6.
No, I know that those numbers were potentials.
That, I can guarantee you that that program will be on the table, if you will, as we go forward.
That's the answer I would like to, so thank you both
Sure.
for that, and thank you for keeping it on the table. Because it may be this year, but maybe next year, if it gets instituted, it's only 3.
That's right.
It's 2, not much, but then it could grow into 6, and it's gonna bring people to this town and young families.
Just so I just we don't even know how many people may have been interested because we didn't advertise it. The only 2 that we were talking about are what we call the bird babies, who were 5 between September 2nd and December 31st. Those are the only 2 in question. We don't know because we didn't advertise. There could be more.
Okay, I'm just going by what your principal.
Well, that was
About
just
early
that was
program.
just.
Because my daughter's birthday is actually January 1st, so I,
Could you just identify?
my name's Jessica D and I live on Tarleton Road. My daughter's birthday is January 1st, and I was able to get her into kindergarten the year that she turned 5.
However, moving forward, anybody born after September 1st that turns 5 that year is not going to be able to go into kindergarten. So my daughter specifically would have benefited by going to early kindergarten and not going straight into kindergarten. She is doing great in school. However, an early kindergarten program is essential to bring families here. If we have an income problem, the income problem can be solved by trying to get people with young children. People with young children don't want to live in a town where they don't have an early kindergarten program. They want to go to those towns, and people pay to send their kids there.
Well, also, if, just so that you know, I'm sure you do, if you have a child that went through that.
And I know specifically that there's people that live outside of our town that would pay tuition to send their kids to our early kindergarten program.
Okay, our job is, so we have to balance it.
I understand that, but all I'm saying is I think there is much more interest if you really look harder.
Well, then they need to, you know, if you know of these people, especially for next year, I don't think there's too much.
Okay, another point I would like to make is that meetings like this that start at 7 o'clock when people have children that are 3 or 4 years old aren't going to be making a 7 o'clock meeting at night to talk about this.
But we could do something, that has nothing to do with the budget per se, but gets out the information about the programs. We could do virtual meetings. We can arrange that with the superintendent, with the pupil services person. Those, I think we can provide that information. It doesn't have to be an in-person meeting, and we could probably do it.
And a lot of
maybe-
your meetings, Pat, are during or late afternoon,
Right.
5 o'clock, so they're not at 7
Right, and
o'clock.
there are some.
This is a rarity.
We could do it virtually too, if it's an informational meeting,
Right.
and not one where we have to make,
Of a
you know, a big decision.
I guess moving forward,
Could you write a note
yes,
so that I can?
you know, next year when this is on the table again, I feel as though we really need to make more of an effort as a town to really truly contact the families that can benefit from that program.
Except we may not know, always.
Yeah.
Well, it's, so to summarize, I'm hearing them both, I think you're more alike than you're different here.
Of course.
What I hear and what I suggest is that, A, keep it on the table. I'm glad that at least the 2 children that we know of are gonna be able to be into the kindergarten class. I think that's great. And I think, kind of along that same concept, get the word out now, because we can't, we're cutting this now. And we're making it a reaction to a budgetary problem that we know that we have. But if we were, I know you have a lot in your books, but if you get the word out and try to see what interests and what community members we can help by offering this now, and you may already be doing that, but I would hope that if you're not, you do, and if you do, thank you for doing it.
Okay, and the other part of this is, you could always appeal to pupil services. Okay,
And I think, Pat, your point of talking to Jessica after.
yeah, I'll talk to you afterwards. There are several
Let's keep,
options.
is there any other questions related to the budget?
I just wanted, maybe I'm the only one who feels that way, but I wanted to thank Mr. Morrow. I couldn't agree with him more. Not just about education per se, but about the nature and direction of the community. Thank you for saying that. I wish I'd thought of it.
And
Thank you.
for those of us who are former educators, because this is very important to us. And if we want our town to be a vibrant town, we have to have a school. Along with the library, right? And the others.
Is there anything else for Pat that has not been discussed?
And you're welcome to call me, or, you know, just come up to me after the meeting. I'll give you my telephone number or my email address if you want to talk to me. Maybe we can go in more depth about something if you have questions. Okay.
Thank
This
you.
lady has one more
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
Okay.
Last year, the school spent extra money on new carpet and floors that didn't need to be done. Where did this money come from?
Well, first of all, people in the community and people on the board don't determine if something needs to be replaced. That is a combination of our custodials, staff, and talking with the business manager who does this sort of thing all the time. So those kind of decisions have to be left up, I think, to the people that know the most about them. And I certainly don't claim to know a whole lot about company and I don't think anybody on the board does. We don't replace something, we mean the Board of Education, we don't replace something unless there is some good reason to do so.
Thank you.
Please answer the question. Where did the money come from? What fund?
It came from the budget, Mr. Jensen.
Pardon me?
It came from the budget.
Okay, but what item in the budget?
Well, I couldn't tell you that because I don't have the last,
Is it the capital building fund?
I am not sure without looking, sir. I would have to look it up and I can get back to you, or better yet, you can go to, probably it would be September or October. And it would give you the information, but I'll be happy to look it up for you if you like.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't really think, what fund it comes from is up to the Board of Education. It is not up to community members.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. Dave?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public hearings. Tonight, we will review the proposed spending plan for the town of Canaan for the fiscal year, beginning July 1, 2026, and ending June 30, 2027. I'd just like to take a moment to thank my colleagues here. I would like to thank our selectman, Chris Kinsella, and Judy Jacobs, who's waiting to go to Alaska. But I also want to thank our treasurer and bookkeeper, Michelle Hanson, for putting our presentation together this evening. We're here to provide and answer questions about the budget process, about the proposed spending plan. This plan reflects our commitment to serving our residents by providing essential services that are useful and customary in an efficient manner while navigating a very challenging economic landscape. At this point, I'd just like to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank you for your interest in our town's financial well-being. Your input is valuable to us as we work to create a spending plan that meets the needs of our community. Thank you. If you go to our town of Canaan proposed municipal spending plan, and I would ask you just to go into series 1001. Now, I want to point out to you for the simplicity, we have given all town employees a 2.5% raise. That is in line with the COLA across the nation. But I will point out to you, neither the first selectman or the selectmen, in fact, took a raise this year. There is only a couple things that are worth mentioning in the selectmen's budget, selectmen's expenses, and one of them being is town bus. We have, as you know from the earlier town meetings, actually was very lucky to procure a bus by actually donated to us from a local private school, and we hope to utilize that bus with the recreation program, perhaps for the seniors at some level. You'll see that we reduced a few things here, one of them being garden maintenance, the other one being the assistant to the, we're going to work on that one, but the assistant to the Board of Selectmen, but we'll be looking at that also. I apologize for that. We'll misstep there, but town bus is the new addition there. The town hall expenses, well, let me point out, 1001 is down 1.65%. The town hall expenses, 1002 is up 0.17%. And that's primarily because of fuel oil. And I will tell you right now, looking at the situation across the nation and across the world, we were very, very lucky to lock in our fuel oil costs. Legal expenses, we have asked for an increase in town council from what it has been before. Our proposed budget is to have $2,500 in that. That's an increase of $1,500. The increase in the probate court, that's dictated to us by the probate court. We have no control over that. The Board of Assessors, you'll notice, And again, let me just point out, I'm sorry. We're up 43.10% in that line. 1005, Board of Assessors. You'll notice computer services and schooling is down significantly. Computer services, as you know, earlier this year, our assessor changed to a new computer system, and it is costing us a great deal less. That is down 6.45%. 1006, the Board of Assessment Appeals, no change. The Board of Finance, although they went down in accounting services 22.68%, they are up in their audit and they are up in the secretary's line, a total of 1.88%. Our tax collector, again, the only jump we see is for computer maintenance and supplies. I have to be honest with you, the piece of paper you're holding in your hand costs more today than it did last year. They're up, as I said, 2.68%. 1009 treasurer, again, what's reflected is the salary of 2.5% and the deputy treasurer 2.5%. Our computer maintenance and supplies up 33.3%. And something that we haven't had, but it moved us at least into the last century, we now have direct deposit for our town employees. So that's up 300% in that line, but that gives it a total of 3.85%. Our 1010 line, town clerk, again, the town clerk salary, the assistant town clerk, both up 2.5%. Other than that, they remained flat for a total of 1.75%. Planning and zoning, Mr. Marlowe, you came in at 0%. With Gosselin also, I know he's here. Zoning Board of Appeals, 0%, 10-12. Registrar of Voters, 1014. We have primaries this year. That will call for additional personnel as poll watchers, poll workers, and it will also call for this early voting primaries. Computer services up. Everything, let's just be honest here. These are state unfunded mandates. There are some grants available, but they're not going to cover all the costs. We're fortunate. And I will look over here to my left, not just our secretary this evening, but also one of our registrars of voters, our Democratic registrar of voters, and as she'll tell you, everything has gone up. We ended up purchasing or getting new voting machines that we really didn't need, but it was mandated by the state. So overall, they're up 29.63%. Insurance, 1015. This will be the last year we will probably be flat with Kermit, because this is the end of our contract at the end of 27. So I much suspect in talking to our representative that in fact we will see something going up. Benefits. You'll see a jump in benefits and health insurance. We've had one of our employees who was on a single plan asked to go to a family plan. There has been overall, I don't need to tell anyone in this room, there has been a big jump in health insurance costs. A total of 28.53%. And again, the other jumps that used to be pension plan, that of course, and Social Security, again, goes up with this 9%. Economic Development Coordinator, 1017. That's just the line we're still keeping open. Public health. It's like to recognize that Mr. Kimlock sitting up in the front row has retired from his position as on the board of directors as the representative from the town of Canaan. But right till the end, he was able to hold that caucus down, the Torrington Health District.
How many years is that figure the same?
The
12.
figure is per, yes, and the figure is per capita. So in that line, there's good news. We have more people, so it went up. Have a greater population. The Houstonic Youth Services Bureau, went up 25%. Mental health services down 46.67%.
You said why? I don't.
Mental health services, what we found out was in working with the folks, and I'll give the credit to our social services. What they did is look at the number of people who were being serviced by those mental health services, and using that per capita. The request, if you probably don't remember, we see it, but the request was for $10,000. And the social services agent went back and said, well, how many people are you and at what cost? And this is a real figure. I can tell you the Youth Services Bureau, it costs over $17,000 to keep a clinician in the school. 5,000 is just barely touching that. Moving along through the social services here, out of public health and into social services. Okay. Oh, and might I just add, the decrease in that particular line, 1018, was 10.76%. Social services, again, 2.5% for the director. As we go down, chore services was increased. Northwest Transit District increased. Litchfield Hills Nutrition went down. And that's because some mix-up we had with when they initially looked at us with North Canaan, the other Canaan. Business and Local Pantry up 16.67%. I don't need to tell you, even though you think we might be immune from it, that we're here in the northwest corner, and that there is no hunger. There is. Social services were up 2.61%. The daycare building, again, 0.07% overall, and that's because of the 0.46 in fuel oil. And again, I can't give credit enough to the treasurer and bookkeeper for actually attending a few of those Zoom conferences that sometimes bore you to tears, but we did, in fact, lock in. Street lights remain the same. General assistance remains the same. That's line 1022. Funds for non-municipal public benefits. We did not increase anyone this year, in spite of what they want. That's a 0%. Conservation Commission, 0%, 1024, line 1024. 1027, general public safety. Litchfield dispatch went up. That's per capita. It went up 4.79%. The constable budget is down 90%. That's because we have their equipment now. The emergency management coordinator, again, with the 2.5% raise. So overall, on that line, 1027, we're up 0.01%. The non-recurring capital accounts. I would tell you to look at what we had proposed under your 26-27 proposed budget. Painfully, and I will tell you painfully, on behalf of both of my colleagues, we decided that we would not put as much this year in our non-recurring capital fund. I know that that puts us behind, but if you look, you could see the percentage in each reserve that we are not putting in. That brought us down 11.81%. 107 Main Street property, line 1202. Again, up with fuel oil. And we asked for an increase in building maintenance because they don't have to tell you, you drive by there, you know, you get at least one foot. That's what it's too. So we're up 7.78%. 35 Railroad Street property. Okay, increase of $5, proposed increase, but basically zero across. Fuel oil up just a hair. Fire commission, I'm not going into the proposed increases and decreases, but they kept the line and 0% for line 2001. Department of Public Works, if we go down, you'll see the increases in salary, and you'll see asking for more money for the icing, 50% increase. Hopefully, we won't have a winter like last winter, but we will be able to get our de-icing, our salt, because hopefully we'll have the new salt shed built and we'll be able to store it. The problem that we've had over the years is having enough room to store that salt. Hopefully by next winter we'll have enough room. So we're up 5.59% in that line. The town garage, okay, again, so let me just go back for a moment, Public Works. And I didn't bring my audio visual this evening, but we have, for the last 10 years, had the same amount of money in our paving budget. And the idea was with our 30 miles of road that we paved, that every year we would pave 1 mile. Now I want to remind you, that same amount of money has been in there for the last 10 years. Guess how much that same money will pay? How much? 0.6 of a mile. So we can't even right now, with our budget, do an entire mile. Going to 3,002 town garage. Fuel oil again up. And uniforms. I can't explain it, but cost of uniforms is up significantly, bringing it up to 8.71% increase. The Recreation Commission, again, salaries up. We have a new rec director. I hope some of you had taken the time earlier this evening to meet her. Chemicals and supplies up 25%. Special programs, summer programs, winter programs, pool pump maintenance and repairs, everything. Ground maintenance is up for 9.36%. We don't have a lot of amenities in this town as far as recreation. The gem is the town farm, which we are trying to develop. So we've been able to do that partially because of a steep grant, but the town pool is a gem. So again, for this line, up total 9.36%. Waste management, again, 2.50, short out 2.49%. Disposal tipping fees, again, up. And we added our food scrap collection, which is $7,056 this year, for a total of 9.30% in line 6001. Our total municipal budget is up $124,611, basically 5.53%. When we balance it against our debt service payments, we are up 5.06%. Question? Barbara?
Two questions. One to do with garden maintenance, which has gone to zero. And I don't know who's gonna be maintaining the gardens in town. I would very strongly hope that we are not counting on volunteers to do what paid labor. Rate. Central town services.
Let me answer that question. We've been very, very fortunate. Richard H. Stone has left us, leave to us, some money, substantial amount of money, to take care of the town center and the green. This year, we will be utilizing that money. That has not been completed with the attorneys, okay, but we have some money and then we'll be utilizing that money. That answers that, and your second.
Okay, so then if we don't have that money subsequent years, then the town will step up to do what we need to do.
Yes. Yes.
They look great,
Yeah.
and it's really important to the town.
No, I hear you, Barbara. But we were very, very fortunate, and it was his wishes, and his will that money goes through.
Okay. My question is about the increase in the health insurance. Of like $70,000. $171,240. And I think I saw in the Board of Finance meetings, increase in health insurance. Overall was around 11%.
11.7.
So 11.7% of 171,000 is about $20,000. But this has gone up almost $70,000.
Correct.
So what is that $50,000?
The other monies that we had looked at was, I can tell you 19,000, 18 to 19,000. I'm just going to go back to
So,
our treasurer, but 8, please, because I think I know what it is, but go ahead,
so there's
Michelle.
a couple of things within that line. The first thing is 11.6%. But that is for each employee's plan, so it depends on if they have a family plan, single plan, or a 2-person plan. So that line isn't gonna show just 11.6%. The other thing is an employee chose to take the health insurance last year in the fiscal year. So that employee's insurance added on to the budget because it wasn't budgeted last year. It's now added on to this budget. And then there's a family plan on top of that. That's that.
So what is the policy about which employees get individual plans and which employees get family plans?
There is no hard and fast rule right now. If you read what we've had in the past, which is last been updated in 2017, having to do with our employees, their employee handbook. It outlines that the first ones to get it are the 40-hour employees, which would be PTW, Department of Public Works. Subsequently, when the town clerk no longer was voted in but was appointed, there is an ordinance having to do with them receiving health care. Then we move on to when the treasurer / bookkeeper prior to Michelle received health insurance. There's another ordinance that at the time of appointment they would an ordinance that they would receive insurance. So that's how it's been done. We are currently looking to our town council, along with working with a healthcare provider, I should say a healthcare broker, and looking how to work on these costs. But I would be less than honest with you and less than transparent with you to say I have the answer here this evening.
Yeah, but so the town hall employees in the past, they've gotten individual insurance or they.
We have a combination of both. We have ones with 2-person plans, single plans, and family plans and single plans.
So, but this big increase you said was that one employee was going to family plan
One employee has asked if they could go on a family plan,
and the other employees have not asked?
not yet. Yes,
I would like to say as a town clerk, I did personally come in and speak with you regarding that, and I didn't want to have to publicly announce that. But I've spoken to you on several occasions that if you were going to consider offering it to one employee, please consider myself and the other employee that also work all the hours that the town is open.
and you're correct on that, Johanna. Absolutely 100% correct, okay? But I didn't want to get into any type of personnel matters in talking about individual employees this evening, and that's why I avoided doing that, because again,
I have a
But
comment.
I don't know how you consider only one person asked when more than one person asked.
well, I can tell you, Barbara, what happened was, in fact, we received a written communique from one particular individual who asked to go on. We haven't received anything written from any of the others.
So it's a question of requesting in writing.
Yes,
And what is the increase of the person who did ask? What is the cost of the increase in that person's health insurance?
19,000.
19,000. Yes,
I would like to just make a comment that the door was opened when one singular employee was added to that health insurance benefit line to a family plan. So a personal conversation with another employee should absolutely be on the table if you're saying that they did not request the same benefit. Because that's pretty black and white to me.
She's not on it. Right. Never voted for her to be on one. So it hasn't gone through.
right.
Correct. However, on the previous version of this budget, there were a lot of things that weren't on there. The budget went down by almost $55,000, which took out of all of basically, it was in sections. All of our non-recurring.
Correct.
And yet we didn't even review the fact that only one singular employee is going to be going on a family plan.
That will be up to the legislative body and to the Board of Finance. Again, this is what we're doing this evening, Ms. Dean.
Okay.
Okay, is taking everyone's.
Well, I have something to say. As you know, I sent you a letter earlier in the
Correct,
week,
and as I told you via email,
Yep.
have the opportunity to read.
and I'm
that
going to read it
letter.
right now.
Okay,
But
Thank you.
first of all, I would like to say that I would like to address. Yes, no, absolutely. Hi, I'm Jessica Johnson Road. I would like to address the elephant in the room because obviously, as everybody here probably mostly knows, my mother is Johanna, who is our town clerk. Okay. Her position in the town hall has no impact on my views and my opinion on this issue. And any remarks contrary to that or any negative comments directed towards her as the town clerk by any other town employee or town official, I will see, and I think will be seen as anybody else, as an unnecessary retaliation based on my right, my basic right to speak my mind as a resident of Falls Village. So moving on, the letter that I wrote and I sent on May 6th, Dear First Selectman and members of the Falls Village Board of Finance, I am writing to express serious concern regarding the proposed provision of comprehensive family health care coverage for a single employee, while similarly situated employees within the same office are not being offered equivalent benefits. If implemented, this proposal appears to raise significant issues of fairness, consistency, and potential legal compliance. Providing a material enhanced benefit to only one employee absent of clearly defined, objective, and uniformly applied policy may create the appearance of favoritism and unequal treatment in the workplace. Beyond concerns of equity, I urge the board to carefully evaluate whether this action could conflict with the applicable federal standards. For example, differential treatment in employee benefits could raise questions under federal wage and legal frameworks, as well as non-discrimination provisions under Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, particularly when it comes to federal funding for our municipality. Additionally, federal civil rights regulations enforced by the Office of Civil Rights may apply where disparities of benefits could be interpreted as discriminatory. An equally important note here is that If there are other employees in comparable roles and circumstances who are not afforded the same opportunity for paid family health care coverage, Falls Village as a town may be exposed to claims of unequal treatment or discrimination. Even the perception of such a disparity can undermine workplace morale, erode public trust, and expose our town to unnecessary legal and financial risks if legal action were to ensue. I respectfully request that the Board of Finance reconsider this proposed revision in the municipal budget and instead ensure that any employee benefit, especially one as significant as family health care coverage, is structured in a way that is transparent, consistently applied, and compliant with all applicable laws and regulations. If such a benefit is deemed appropriate in a defined future policy, it should be extended equitably to all similarly situated employees or otherwise justified through a clear, objective outline. At this time, since no defined policy is in place, either all employees receive this benefit for fiscal year 26-27, or no employee should receive this at an additional cost to the town. Thank you for your attention to this concern. I trust that the board will take necessary steps to ensure fairness, accountability, and legal compliance in all decisions related to our municipal budget.
Thank you.
I think you make some very good points, but one thing that I would point out is that sometimes if we should have the flexibility for employees that would like the insurance to take it, but other employees may have the ability to take it, but perhaps they're getting their insurance from a spouse or someplace else. Also, the other thing that I wondered, currently, I don't believe it was true when I was on the board.
But also-
Do the employees pay any part of their health insurance cost?
No, they,
Okay,
well, if I may answer, follow it up, Pat.
sure.
There has been traditional, and I'm talking about historically, the town has always looked at how much our individuals make, hourly rate and overall salary. And we see that we're below every other town. As a matter of fact, I have a current printout from the COG for different towns. And there are towns that I can tell you we in fact pay less in every category, even the first selectman I might have. But again, then there's also how much they contribute or if they don't contribute. And my understanding historically from the previous selectmen I spoke with, it was at 0% because of how much the employees made. Their salaries. This is similar.
I'm sorry to the phrase here, but the point that was made was solid. And it's one thing for employees to decline it who are all offered it. But it's another thing in all entirely as to the situation that has arisen.
And it's something that has been recognized and that we're working through with town council. Like I say, we're looking at all different types of resources. It was,
Well, the basic principle that was
correct.
that was detailed in the remarks that were made were solid.
Correct.
Greg Marlowe, shift off insurance for a second. Town council, went up like $300, minimal, but I think it shows it's only going to spend dollars this year.
We've already spent, we have a new attorney. We retain a new attorney, although his hourly rate has been the same. We have had a lot more questions to ask him.
And now I'm going to circle back on insurance a little bit. Very valid points. I agree with what Louis just said, so I'm not going to repeat that. However, I think that we do need to have a policy, at least a historical policy of what we have offered and having. I'm not saying whether I support giving more to these families or not. If that's a choice by the Board of Selectmen to do so because it's the right thing, which I would personally go along with, that has a cost, and that cost is not really. I think it really needs to be sussed out because it has a cost this year for this potential increase. But if it's offered fairly across the board, that needs to be extrapolated out, and you were already asked to lower your budget 100,000 by the Board of Finance, and I think you're at 40 some thousand. 57. So you're already falling short without that added on top. Which, that's kind of all I need to say about the assurance, but I think that, it's a very complicated matter that can't be handled probably maybe within our town government.
That's why we're going to town council.
And town council's not the person, they can set a policy, but they don't know anything.
Sort of off your point, Craig. If you've been following along the Board of Finance meetings, you'll see that it's been a conversation point for us every single meeting. So we're aware, and we've challenged the Board of Selectmen on some things. However, we're gonna work through the whole budget and see where we can make those changes. But we're well aware, and it is a sticking point for us right now.
And I do know that, thank you for being so.
Yeah.
But
Madam Chairman.
almost. So that leads me to, I really think, so again, we have a revenue issue, and some people may look at it as a spending issue, right? I've sat in the Board of Selectmen's office for, I think, 12 years, doing these budgets. I know it's hard, and Board of Finance's job is equally as hard, especially in these days, because our gap is widening. And what that's done is so we get to this time of the year, the Board of Selectmen comes in, this is 2 years in a row, you're asked to make a substantial cut, and you don't do it because you don't feel it's the right thing. It's the Board of Finance job to ask for it because they're running the numbers down. And then it becomes an emergency because, oh my God, we have to get the tax bill out. Gotta get the tax bill out. And what happens is, and it's through no fault, it's a process fault. We get the tax bill out and we do the same thing, and it brings us right back today as we were a year ago when we had this meeting. We don't have enough money, and we have too many expenses. But we have done nothing, in my opinion, to get to that. So I would ask that we really commit to getting an independent financial consultant that can just use cold numbers, because this is our town. These are our people. People are affected by health insurance. People are affected by pain, by costs. So we have emotions. Numbers are cold. That's why math is so great. That's why I love math. Math is cold. Math is just numbers. An independent financial consultant can come in and give us another look, because we just keep doing the same thing. And we got to get the tax bill out, so we're just going to pass it. And nobody, this is a small portion of our town. We don't really have a vocal majority. We have a concerned minority. With that being said, it would be money so well spent. I think it would pay itself back 100-fold or 1,000-fold to get an independent look at how, because we can't keep doing the same thing. We're going more negative every year. And if we keep going more negative, we know what happens in private business, right? And we can't let that happen.
I like following up, Greg. You're right. Every year we get a bigger and bigger shortfall. But for years, we really haven't addressed the revenue issue. And I think that we can I think this year will be the first year that the Board of Finance really will attack the problem of expense cutting beyond what the selectmen have done. I think we haven't done that a few previous years. We're already talking about doing it this year, just to make sure we do cut some things and take some emotion out of it, right? However, when your expenses outpace your revenue year after year, because your expenses don't get easier, right? We have a bigger problem with revenue, and that needs to be addressed. So I agree. A consultant come in and can look at the expense numbers cold, but we need to think about as a community how we generate more income in our town.
And I want to follow you up on that, because I totally agree. And that's also maybe, I may not have the right name here as a financial consultant, but somebody that can come in and look at both sides. Because it's not a simple spending problem. It's not a simple revenue problem. It's a combination of
Yep.
with emotions attached for us.
We hear you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And lastly, if the food scrap is not, it goes through by the town at $7,000. I just really think it's super important to get the word out, because the tipping fee is $120. $119. 119, so call it $100. So that's 700 tons that need to go out to pay for that. It should happen. Could happen, but I'm just asking if that line goes through to please promote and educate the town to do it.
And I think, Greg, you bring up a very good point. If I might address that with the food scraps. Right now, as you know, we are trying to move into the Northwest Regional Refuge Authority. And one of the things that's going to be very, very important is getting out our recyclables and getting our food scraps aside. So wherever we land, and a lot of people are aware of what's going on with the Tarn transfer station, or it's has been given to the NRRA. So now we're looking at setting up the NRRA, and that will be a part of our vote when we have our county on second to join the NRRA as the other towns in the point.
I'd like to put a couple of things in perspective about how bad off we think we are. The purchasing value of the dollar since 2000 has declined by 25.67%. And this is data from the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, where a basket, what they call a basket load of retail products and housing are put together to determine what the dollar will actually buy. So I was curious to see what my taxes had gone up in that same period, and I sat with the town treasurer. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. And I looked at what my taxes in my home went up in that time, and it was about 13%, and I think it was about 12 for you. And if someone else had was a little better at 8%. So I'm paying half again as much as the cost of everything in that 6 years. So that's part of this issue about saying we're in a mess. Now, the circumstances regarding inflation, for example, in 2022, it went up 8% just in that 1 year, and then 4.1% in 2023. We had nothing to do with that, but we have to live with that. My wife and I, Carol and I, have been going to the Greek festival in Waterbury for 10 years or so. We were there the other day, and a Greek coffee cost $5. In 2020, it was $2.50. So this has nothing to do with our situation about doing something wrong here. It has to do with the fact that we have to correct for what we need to perform the functions of government. And I want to add one more thing. I'm probably going to be a troublemaker on this. To give you some background on how we happen to have non-recurring reserve accounts. I was on the Board of Selectmen with Mr. Lawson, Pete Lawson, when we were trying to do that. And we also tried to have a positive general fund balance. And there was a great opposition in some quarters in the town where it was viewed if there was as much as 1 penny left over from the spending of a given fiscal year, that meant it was excessive taxes. So to get to the point where we were engaging in reasonable and rational financial management, so we had money aside, took some doing. And so when I see the allegation, I probably laid a loaded word, but that we're saving money by shortchanging our reserve accounts, I think Pete Lawson's going to turn over in his grave. So I know what we went through to get there. And the other thing that took us a while to get was a general fund balance. And we established that general fund balance for 2 reasons. A lot of the fiscal year expenses are front loaded, but the taxes don't come in on the 1st of July. So sometimes the town had to borrow money to get through the first month until taxes came in. That was just one reason for having a general fund balance, but the second reason was to deal with unanticipated and unplanned adverse economic circumstances. Well, 25% in 5 years is exactly that. That's what we had a general fund balance for. And not to have it sitting there at 12.5% or whatever, but to use it by the terms and conditions of what we thought to put it together. Also, the first selectman and Mrs. McCarroll went over, your chairman, with some favorable aspects of revenue. Some of it requires some work in town, and some of it is reasonable and prudent to expect. If we balance all these things, we don't have to be thinking there's a crisis. We have work to do, but it's not like we have a crisis. And we're not doing ourselves favor by putting away money that we're going to spend on capital needs.
Can I just address that one issue? We are looking for the Board of Selectmen on Monday to make a motion that if they sell, and when they sell 35 Railroad Street, that they fund what they took out of the capital accounts first, the reoccurring
That-
accounts.
I'm not,
And then,
I'm talking in principle, I'm not trying to.
no, but we're just telling you that we've already
That's a
addressed that
one-time-
issue.
That's a one-time thing, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the things that we went over are not one-time. They are possibilities to work with regard to interest and reconfiguring some of our funds on hand, and also some other favorable eventualities regarding addition to the grand list. So all these things are important, but don't shortchange the future by thinking we're saving money by not funding our reserve accounts, because we're going to have to pay the devil sooner or later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interject here, I was away most of the winter back recently, and I've kind of reviewed some of the select board and finance board meetings, and this issue of revenue has come up a few times in meetings. So what I've asked now, there must be some thoughts on this already. What are some of the ideas that you're looking at to then increase revenue here? And again, not just a single one, line revenue or single, let's say, event revenue, but rather ongoing recurring revenue.
Well, what we're going to start with, Mr. Jensen, is initially in June, and I'd like you to be part of it, is a blue ribbon committee on how to raise revenue in the town. As a matter of fact, our board member, Amy Nguyen, has suggested that at the last meeting, if you remember. So we'll put together a committee from people all over now to look at putting together some sort of plan and moving forward with that. The other thing that we've done is we've taken we will be taking the non-recurring capital funds. All right, we had, I believe, 40 some lines for the non-recurring,
Well, yeah,
40 some. Okay, they all
Account,
different.
yeah, individual accounts. So on each account, maybe you got $10, $15, $20, and then we spoke with our auditors. This is the nice thing about having auditors like King and King. They said, why don't you consolidate them into 2 or 3 or 4 separate accounts? That way, the aggregate of that money would actually gain more interest. I actually think of taking them all together because we are in a new world now where we can take QuickBooks and we can actually account for every one of those accounts. Where in the past, in the 90s, when Mr. Timmelot did it, it was still all by paper.
I mean, you are keeping the accounts.
We are keeping the accounts, and we can tell you how much is going in each account, but that aggregate of that money will actually give us more.
Tell them about the stiff accounts.
We also have what's known as a STIP account. Yes, that doesn't mean that you're gonna stiff us on tax year. It's not the account. The STIP account is the account where we can put money into an account for 26 days. And then gain somewhere between 3 and 3.5%.
3.7.
3.7. Okay. All right. But that's things we're all going. Sir, I don't know your name. I apologize.
I'm David Rubenstein, living out.
I haven't talked to you on the phone. All right. Thank you.
Newcomer here. I've only been here 26 years.
Wow.
I understand that there's a real serious problem about the budget and the deficit. I got that. But I don't want that issue to overcome the issue that was raised before about the equity issue. So I don't know much about your budget. I know a lot about the law. And you're telling us that you're talking to your general lawyer about the equity issue. Through the basic legal principle that people who are similarly situated need to be treated the same. If you don't do that, you're going to be in a lot of legal trouble. So I don't know what your lawyer is going to tell you, but you want to make sure that whatever that lawyer tells you is consistent with that legal principle. Because this lady over here has a real concern, and as I understand her passion, she's going to make good on it. And I don't blame her.
Thank you. And I thank her for bringing it to our attention this evening.
Did you finish a list of revenue potential?
Oh, that's why we had this blue ribbon committee being put together. And Peter, I would like to have you on it. Any other question? Comments? I don't want to hear anything from North Canaan. Go ahead.
Christian Allen, Route 63, but it's no secret that I'm a grandless payer on Route 63. I'm not a resident of Canaan. I'm a resident of North Canaan, and not North Canaan, in North Canaan. I'm a member of the Board of Finance. And I commend you for working with the town crew to raise your salt budget. I have serious concerns, however, about the road mileage that you're able to cover with your asphalt. And I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think that in relation to this revenue issue that we have here, there's budget shortfalls that are beginning to pile up in this town that are going to lead to major long-term issues. And I just don't see how it's possible. And I know whose shoes I'm filling, and I'm not afraid to be the elephant in the room. I do not understand how you're going to be able to fulfill the needs of the town without raising taxes here. And it's just, it's a situation where here in North Canaan, we have had budget surplus after budget surplus, and now we have a general fund over $5.5 million, and we are earning interest in North Canaan. We're earning almost $200,000 a year on interest alone, and we continue to add to our general fund. So I certainly hope that the leaders of Falls Village work together to get this town in a fiscally sound position so that we can continue the good work that Mr. Timlot talked about with Pete Lawson and grow the balance of the town.
Thank you. Any other?
We have two online questions.
Oh, please, I'm sorry.
First question, does Falls Village need an assistant town clerk for such a small town?
Yes.
Oh, can you tell us who asked the question, please?
It's Maddie Johnson.
Thank you.
Yes, we do, because the town clerk is allowed to be sick. The town clerk is allowed to have vacation. So we do need an assistant to fill.
Okay, the next question. I see that Rec Commission hired a new rec director. Does Falls Village need a pool director also? Can't that be one though?
No, they, several years ago, they broke those two jobs apart, two separate tasks. And the rec director is basically running programs all year long, where the pool director, or as we like to call them, the waterfront director. And I never understood that because we don't have a waterfront, but the waterfront director runs the pool and all the scheduling for the pool.
And was that the same person, Patty?
I'm sorry?
It was the same.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just as I may add, Madam Chair, is that the, as I said earlier, the pool is one of the gems of this town.
Right, actually, I do have another question to you guys here, and this pertains to the non-recurring capital funds account that over the course of time, the Kellogg Capital Building, which we've been funding at a tune of $17,000. I imagine going back previous years, some similar amount or so. So it must have built up something. But this year, we're only funding at $13,050, so we decreased that amount. But then what we've heard is that Kellogg itself is creating their own capital building fund. They did it last year to the tune of, you said 30,000?
About 30,000, that could change though from year to year,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
that.
it changes. Okay, so
Pounds are
if
gonna
this
spend
year,
more.
I mean, are we trying to still, let's say, hit the target of 17,000? Or that total amount that Kellogg will have, and let's say they get 20,000 into their budget surplus, they'll then put 17,000 into that. 3,000 will come back to the town, because I heard that they surrendered some of that surplus to the town, and that would erase then even this line item of 13,000. So it's been 17,000.
No, no.
Why has it grown so much then?
Over the years, we have put certain percentages in it, and it's grown, okay, that Kellogg Capital Fund. And if you remember, we told you earlier that we didn't always have that capital fund, all right, that particular line, and the technology, that was given to us 3 years ago,
I think
2
so.
years ago.
I wasn't.
Okay, and that was by the state, so we had that. All right, and we had funded that at 17,000. Now, the reason we're funding that 13,000 is because, as I said to my bookkeeper treasurer, find me $50,000 in the non-recurring capital fund. So if you look there, you look through this, next to the last column, it'll tell you the percentages by what each line was used. So that's how we got that total $50,000.
But 17,000 was considered adequate through the years?
I'll be honest with you, the non-recurring capital funds were never really set up to pay for everything. Matter of fact, what they were set up for was, in fact, to be a down payment. Now, we were lucky, okay, we were able to purchase 2 trucks. And it's only because we kept trucks 20 years that we were able to, one of the proudest moments in my entire career here, if I do nothing else as a selectman here, I got the DPW manager a new truck and got him out of that 1998 beat up white pickup. Okay, and if I had accomplished nothing else here, I did that. All right, and we have also got another truck, a Ford F-350 small truck that'll help us plow. But overall, what I wanted to impress upon you, none of these non-recurring capital funds will buy anything. It'll be a good down payment on something. If we have, and I don't know what the money is, you can actually look online and see how much is in that particular fund. Okay, but I understand the roof is gonna be 130,000.
Well, we have 3 sections left. The longer, the longer we put off doing it, there are greater chances of the price is gonna go up. We're trying to be on that.
Sorry, being sure like that.
Yeah,
That's some bullshit.
yeah, we'll get some cost sharing, as Louis says, but, we have to go at the time that we're going for these prices. They don't guarantee the prices for 18 months or something like that. We do the best we can.
So again, to reiterate, is none of those have been set up to completely pay for something. But what they have been set up for is to pay for a portion, a half. We lucked out with the 2 trucks. Let me tell you, if it hadn't been for my town crew putting together those bids, we would have never afforded it.
Well, and sometimes you need to have money to get money,
Correct.
right? So if you don't have something in reserve, then we're not eligible to apply for certain grants and things. So,
Yeah, no. Think like, why is it just a reserve fee?
Case in point. Oh, case in point though, remember the ambulance? This came up last year. And the ambulance, we all looked at it and we said, how much money do we have in that ambulance fund? Do you remember?
it was like 47.
Yeah. And how much does an ambulance cost?
So ours is coming in at a very conservative price of $250,000.
And last time we bought an ambulance, we paid for it with donations and every penny
Yes.
in the account.
And most of that was donations if you.
Actually, we are using, Lou, we are using, someone left some money to the ambulance and to the fire department, but the ambulance portion of it, we actually decided to hold back and not spend and put it towards our new ambulance. And it is gonna pay almost half.
Remember the barbecue?
I remember it fondly.
And
We brought back the chicken barbecue and we used that money to pay for the ambulance.
Full of it there.
Is there any,
No, right.
please share.
is there any other questions for,
To mention one thing again, that there's not one person I know that isn't on the board or commission that is always looking to find ways to make the cost to the taxpayer
Yes.
lower than it is. And I would really encourage people, it's always nice to have questions asked, but to have them asked at this meeting is rather difficult. If we can answer them as best we can, but if you come to our meetings, you will know what we face. You can have your questions put together far ahead of time. And maybe we can give you better, more complete answers than what you
I
received.
did this to a meeting and I was told to come here to get the answer.
So like, what I mean is go to the board or commission. If you've got concerns about spending for the Board of Education, then you can just come to the Board of Education. If you've got spending, that you have questions about, for the Board of Selectmen and the town crew or anything that's under the Board of Selectmen, that's where you should go.
Thank you.
That way we have enough advance notice, we kind of get the gist of what you're concerned about. And then maybe we could have better answers for you in a quicker amount. of time.
I appreciate you, responding to that. And is there, you know,
I just get a little tired
I
of
understand.
very small number
I understand.
doing all this work and kind of getting
Thank you.
back about it. I don't work, but please come to our meetings.
I'll,
and express
okay.
your concern.
entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, Arden, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Walmart part.
Two hours.
That's up to.
Right. Listen,